the East Africa area, the common external tariff that gets charged means that you charge exactly the same tariff on South African products coming in, which makes it much more expensive. And we believe that this is an area that could be dealt with. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellencies. That is a brief summary of the deliberations at the Business Forum today. With the gracious permission of Your Excellencies, the Cabinet Secretary for Trade, Investment and Industry Kenya, Honorable Moses Kuria, will guide the next part of the program. Waziri, karibu sana, so that you can guide us to the next part of the program. Asante.
Your Excellency, President William Ruto, President of the Republic of Kenya, Your Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa, President of the Republic of South Africa, fellow Cabinet Secretaries, Ministers from South Africa, ladies and gentlemen. Before I make brief remarks, let me take this opportunity to invite my brother, the Minister for Trade, of Industry and Competition of the Republic of South Africa, Mr. Ibrahim Patel, to make some brief remarks. Minister Patel.
His Excellency William Ruto, President of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa, President of the Republic of South Africa, members of the Kenyan and South African Cabinet, ambassadors, business executives and captains of industry representing both countries, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Ujambo, Sanibonani, good afternoon. Excellencies, we've had more than 300 business representatives who've been involved in plenary and roundtable discussions for much of today. You would have heard now from the two business representatives. They had excellent discussions and they are eager and keen to get down to doing more business with each other, to invest more, to trade more. Trade between our two countries is beginning to support the joint vision of industrialization of both countries, though much still needs to be done. Your Excellencies, South Africa exported key inputs into Kenya's industrial supply chains, including coal to power Kenyan industry, particle board used to make furniture here, steel to be transformed in Kenya, and car kits that are assembled in Kenya. Kenya is now South Africa's largest global supplier of fresh flowers. But we also recognize that the overall level of trade is not sufficient. Indeed, it went down in both 2020 and in 2021. And in particular, South African exports declined, which we look to reverse. At the same time, there's vast scope for more Kenyan products in the South African market, from the delicious teas and range of fruits to Kenyan manufactured articles. Minister Kuria and I are already working on unlocking those opportunities. Firms from both sides see opportunities to invest. There's a Kenyan investor in South Africa in a large nut plantation in macadamia nuts. PG Bison has invested in Kenya manufacturing for furniture, and Distel in beverage manufacturing. Standard Bank and MTN are investing in Kenyan infrastructure. All of this is about growth, about jobs, about trade. Trade, Your Excellencies, have been in the blood of our people for many centuries. Communities in present-day Kenya and South Africa were part of the great network of trade routes that stretch along the Swahili coast. The great trading centers of Mombasa, of Lamu, of Malindi and Gede. And this community connected with the Southern African kingdom of Mapungubwe. These trading cities also traded with the rest of the world, with China, with Europe, with the Middle East. And they connected parts of the African continent, facilitating the flow of goods among Africans in gold and salt, in beads and carvings, in ivory and gum, in metalworks and textiles. Colonialism interrupted and deeply damaged the indigenous development of African trade and caused harm to our societies that has lasted for centuries. Today, Africa has the opportunity to decisively turn the corner, and that's what the state visit is about. His Excellency President Ramaphosa, His Excellency President Ruto, leading the way to reverse the legacy of the past. And so today, we have this opportunity to hear from the two excellencies on their vision, and as members of the respective cabinets, we've already been put to task to step up the work that we do in order to address all the challenges that have come out in the business forum, in the bilateral trade talks. And I want to end by saying that President Ramaphosa has given us a job to prioritize economic relationships with Kenya. As leader of the African Union during the COVID period, President Ramaphosa championed the idea of Africa making its own medical products, from vaccines to face masks to ventilators. As during the meetings of the G20 heads of state, he has put African development at the center of his advocacy and efforts. And next year, South Africa will chair BRICS, bringing together China, India, South Africa, Brazil, and Russia. And President Ramaphosa has set out an ambitious agenda focused on a partnership between BRICS and Africa. And that therefore means this state visit and the business forum that we've had here are really significant building blocks to giving effect to that vision. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellencies. Your Excellencies, Kenya exports goods worth $38 billion to South Africa. And this is mainly primary products, cut flowers, avocados, tea, vegetables. While South Africa exports goods worth $650 million, mostly as inputs within our manufacturing. So already you can start to see the imbalance that we face. And this imbalance is also exacerbated by the fact that our exporters to South Africa are largely small to medium enterprises, while South African exporters are more established companies, mostly large companies. Whereas we are concerned about this imbalance, it is only part of the story. The bigger story is that Kenya and South Africa continue to lose the bigger opportunity that exists within the wider African market. We continue to trade more with the rest of the world than we trade within ourselves. Kenya and South Africa are not in any regional common tariff regime. So the low volume is not by accident. There's a reason to it. Any efforts for a bilateral solution, when we try to have a bilateral solution within each other, is facilitated by non-African countries invoking the most favored nation status. We are actually joined together more by music than by trade because of Kenyans' love for Kwaito music. Intra-Africa trade starts at 19% as composed to 70% intra-EU trade. Yet, we have a low-hanging fruit in the Africa Continental Free Trade Area with a population of 1.2 billion people and $1.4 trillion GDP. To enable our 110 million people between our two countries trade with each other and with the 1.1 billion Africans, it is important to talk to some countries to unlock the South African Custom Union so that we can kick off the guided trade mechanism that exists between ACFTA countries. And Kenya has indeed already started trading with some countries as far away as Ghana under this framework. Yet because of some of these bottlenecks, which are actually very solvable, we are unable to invoke the same to trade with our sister nation of South Africa. Even as we work on ACFTA, we have a lot to gain by activating the SACU EAC COMESA tripartite agreement, thus freeing trade among 800 million Africans. 11 countries have deposited TFTA agreements, and we need only 3 countries to deposit to make the agreement effective. Kenya and South Africa need and are going to work together to get the 3 countries out of the remaining countries that includes Tanzania, South Sudan, the DRC, Ethiopia, Eritrea, the Sudan, Libya, Tunisia, Lesotho, Mozambique, Seychelles, Comoros, Malawi, and Madagascar. Only of those 3 countries can unlock trade between 800 million people. And only one country within SACU, which I will not name in this distinguished gathering, but I have shared with our 2 excellencies, we need to do something so that indeed we start to trade, one among 800 million people, and secondly among the 1.2 billion people within the Africa continent. As we work under the prevailing conditions, Kenya and South Africa will not sit back. Do nothing is not an option. And we have agreed with the Minister Patel to set up a joint committee to unlock the non-tariff barriers which are hindering trade between our 2 nations. We had very strict instructions from our 2 presidents to do everything possible to look at the issues of logistics, to the issues of delays in our borders, and Kenya is actually taking the first step by establishing the first 2 bordered custom warehouses, one in Johannesburg and one in Pretoria, to support our SMEs so that they can be able to access the markets in a similar footing as our more established counterparts from South Africa. The Kenya and South Africa will work together to build a consensus among African countries around the issue of the renewal of the AGOA, the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act, with the US, and also the Strategic Trade and Investment Partnership. And we have agreed that ahead of the US-Africa Summit that is going to take place next month in Washington, D.C., we are going to rally together the other African countries that are going to persuade our colleagues within the US administration, within the Congress, that extension of AGOA beyond 2025 is an issue of absolute necessity. The SCFTA conversation is not going to be a dialogue among governments only. The private sector voice must be on the table. In this regard, Kenya is proud to announce that in partnership with Standard Bank of South Africa, who are here today, we will host the first ever Africa Private Sector Alliance Conference in Nairobi in the first quarter of 2023 that will bring together Africa's top 50 companies in support of the ACFTA. So this is not going to be only a discussion among governments. We are working together to bring in a private sector, our big companies that have got the biggest influence within Africa, because ACFTA is not for the benefit of government. ACFTA has got its owners, and its owners are the private sector within the continent. Your Excellencies, I'm a very proud person, and I'm a very happy person today. 8 days ago, on my second day of work, I woke up in Pretoria to meet my counterpart, Minister Patel. Today, you've made us proud. The bold and brave decision that you've taken on the issue of visas for Kenyans in South Africa to South Africa can only be taken by brave men. And on behalf of our governments, our people, and our business community, I want to congratulate you, because surely fortune favors the bold. I think so we can say now, without fear of contradiction, that everyone who is in this room today can travel to South Africa on an ordinary passport without a visa, just as those who came to join us from South Africa came without a requirement for a visa. So thank you, Your Excellency, because you've made us equal and proud, and we are going to walk this journey together to actually be the leaders in the rest of the continent. Coupled with trade, we are now determined more than ever before to deepen our investment partnership by our two nations. And in this regard, we welcome our South African investors and counterparts to our PPP and Special Economic Zones Investment Conference, again, that will take place in the first quarter of next year, so that you can be able to showcase to interested investors like the likes of Transnet and Standard Bank of South Africa the many opportunities that exist within our PPP and our Special Economic Zone. To drive forward this economy going forward, Kenya has taken a deliberate decision that will partner with the private sector to free up the many opportunities that do exist. The role of financial services and telecoms in fostering the free trade area in Africa is pivotal. And Kenya welcomes South Africa financial institutions to set base in our Nairobi International Financial Center that will kick off shortly, and further welcome you to join our telcos in the setup of our joint smartphone project, which is undertaken by Kenya Telcos. And we have extended this invitation to South African telcos like MTN and Vodacom, so that we can continue mobile integration so that these are very important elements of fueling trade. And as we do so, we must also look at the issue of interoperability of our mobile money, because Kenya is a market leader using our M-Pesa. I look forward to going to South Africa and on an MTN, on a Vodacom network, being able to access money from my M-Pesa balance as a way of fueling African trade. Your Excellencies, the future of our continent lies in free flow of trade and investment. Kenya and South Africa have a cardinal role to play in this regard. We are the firstborns of free trade in Africa, and that comes with extra responsibility. We are equal to the task, and we are committed to this. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And now it is my distinguished pleasure to ask that we may be upstanding as I welcome the President of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency William Ruto, to make his remarks and invite his guest, President Cyril Ramaphosa. Thank you very much.
Please, let's take our seats. Thank you very much. Your Excellency, President Cyril Ramaphosa of the Great Republic of South Africa, distinguished ministers who are here, captains of industry, friends, good evening. First, let me take this opportunity on behalf of the government and the people of Kenya to welcome our friends, the business community from South Africa to Kenya, and to let you know that while you are in Kenya, count yourselves to be home away from home. You are most welcome to Kenya. This morning, I had extensive discussions with my elder brother, President Ramaphosa, and his team, and I want to thank His Excellency the President for delivering the good news to the business community and to the people of our two countries, making it possible for us to be able to travel, to be able to visit, to be able to do business, and to be able to work together in an environment that has little hurdles and that we have to jump little hoops to be able to get to the other side. Thank you very much, Mr. President. On behalf of the people and government of Kenya, we appreciate your gesture, your leadership, and your personal intervention in making sure that our officials are aligned so that we can work together. I just have two things to say to remind us. And I speak to the South African business delegation the way I do to our Kenyan business people. We are living in a continent that we have
1.2 billion people with a GDP of $2.7 trillion. We have the youngest population in the globe. This is a continent of great possibilities and opportunities. These opportunities and possibilities are hindered by bureaucracy, red tape, regulations, and many things that impede our collective progress. I told our teams earlier, we cannot share poverty, but we can share wealth. And we need to work together to create wealth. And we must eliminate the barriers, the hurdles. Our borders must not be walls. We must turn our borders from being hurdles to being bridges. We must turn our borders from being hurdles to being facilitative so that we can do trade, we can do business, we can make investment, and we can move people, goods, and services freely in our continent. Kenya and South Africa are struggling to export to Europe and all manner of places. And yet, there exists market and opportunity in Kenya and South Africa. Something must be wrong with us, honestly. We cannot continue this. Europe, you've heard, is trading at 70% of trade, intra-European trade. Africa is at 19%. What a shame. And we still want to have a conversation about, oh, you know, we have this regulation, and you know, we have this other regulation, and you have to wait. I mean, surely, good people. Sometimes, even when we want to make decisions at the policy level, the business people are the ones holding us back. Or, you know, that guy is going to take over my market, and the other guy is going to take over my market. Please, let us have one big market. Forget about your small market. Let us work together. Instead of selling to a few people in Kenya or selling to a few people in South Africa, let us sell to the many people in Africa by tearing down the borders that limit our opportunity to work together. I want to thank President Ramaphosa for working with my team and myself to eliminate some of the barriers that we have. Our ministers have instructions that South Africa and Kenya are in one neighborhood, and South Africa and Kenya hold the potential of unleashing the opportunities in our continent by working together. Combining the experience, know-how of the South African people with the agility and the innovation of the Kenyan people, the limit is the sky. There is no limit. We have limitless opportunity by working together. I want to promise my good brothers from South Africa that Kenya is open for business and Kenya wants to work with you. We have agreed on many of the other issues. And I want to thank our officials for being supportive of the positions that we have taken. Eliminating the barrier on meat exports. Why on earth would we ban South African meat from coming to Kenya, or Kenyan meat from going to South Africa? Why? There is absolutely no reason. And listening to the good lady who came to speak to us about these barriers, I never heard her say, this is very difficult. She kept on saying, this is easy, this is simple, we're going to do this. So I am here to come across anything that is so difficult. I have only heard about things that are simple and easy. The question I ask myself, easy and simple, why am I not doing them? Let's just do this easy and simple things and get us working and get us doing business. Let me finally say the following. We have huge opportunities in Kenya for South African private sector and business entities. We have investments, we have huge opportunities in our housing and settlement plan. We are short of 2 million houses. My good brother, President Ramaphosa, told me, you have already built 4 million houses in South Africa. We want to build at least 200,000 houses every year. And we want South African companies to come and work with us. Bring your technology, bring your investment. We are going to give you the land. We are going to build the infrastructure for you. We are going to make sure there is a sewer line, there is a road, there is electricity, there is water. And when you complete those houses, we are going to buy them from you. As soon as you complete, you hand over the keys to us. We pay you, you go to the next project as we look for mortgage for our citizens. You have opportunity. You have opportunity in our water harvesting program. We have decided that we are going to work with the private sector to deliver on our water harvesting program. We have already lined up the first 100 big dams, which we want to build using a water purchase agreement instrument. Build the dam, we will buy the water from you, and we will underwrite the purchase of that water from any of the investors, from our good friends from South Africa. There is tremendous opportunity for you to co-invest with us. And for us to give you opportunity to earn good rands, good shillings, maybe even dollars from our working together under the private-public partnership window. We have sound South African investments in Kenya, from DSTV to Standard Bank and all the other operations. And I was very pleased to see the kind of partnerships in the various companies that we went through here in the grounds down outside here between South Africa and Kenya, from textile to furniture to manufacturing to fintech companies. And I want to tell you that South Africa and Kenya hold the key to unlocking the possibilities in the continent of Africa. We need to work together. And between me and my elder brother, I want to promise you that we are going to open doors for you, not just in Kenya, not just in South Africa, but in the continent of Africa, so that we can leverage on your expertise, on the resources you have to open our continent and to unlock the potential of wealth in the continent of Africa. I want to persuade you that this is an opportunity like no other. This is an opportunity of our lifetime. And even in the face of the challenges that we face with climate change and all the other attendant drought, floods, famine, we can still position our continent not just as a victim of climate change, but actually as a place where we can play a role in resolving the challenge of climate change. We have enormous resources in the green energy space. We have huge opportunities from our young people and the natural resources we have in this continent. The opportunity is beckoning for us to work together, and it starts somewhere. And I want to pledge that it starts with South Africa and Kenya. Thank you very much for listening to me. It is now my very humble duty to request His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa to be able to make his remarks. Mr. President.
Thank you. Let's be seated, please. Program Director, Your Excellency, President Dr. William Ruto, ministers from both our countries, South Africa and Kenya, business leaders who are here present with us. I'd like to convey my joy and my special thanks to you, my dear brother, for inviting myself and my delegation to come to your beautiful country, but more especially as your first state visitor guest during the first part of your presidency. Thank you very much. You've given us more than a warm welcome to Kenya. Having been to Kenya a number of times, this has been a very special visit, largely because of the manner in which the discussions between our two delegations have really gone to great success and to new heights. Your country is not only known for the stunning beauty of this great country, but it is also known as a powerful economy in East Africa. And we see South Africa and Kenya having a symbiotic relationship in a number of areas. There's so much that we have in common, that we share. Our value system is very similar. The principles that we uphold, very, very similar. We're democratic, and you are too. You uphold human rights, so do we. Your governance structures, institutions, and processes are really outstanding. So there's much that binds us together as the two countries, and we are overjoyed with that. And our visit to you comes at a time when the world is facing enormous challenges, and we've just been recovering from COVID-19, and that too was an enormous challenge. I just want to speak on some of the issues and reiterate and endorse what President Ruto has just been saying, particularly about the enormous opportunities that we have on our continent, in relation to our positioning in the world, in relation to our population as a continent, and in relation to the youthfulness of our population. And also get us to look back where we've come from. We're a continent that is quite resilient. Sometimes we browbeat ourselves into helplessness and submission and all that. I've always enjoyed President Museveni's take on our continent when he says, we are a continent of resilient people because we are survivors. We survived the most brutal form of punishment that was ever exerted on a people in the history of the world, colonialism. And they sought to wipe us out and to destroy us, but we survived. And we've emerged as independent countries, proud of our identities and surging forward. I mentioned COVID advisedly because as the world was gripped by this massive pandemic, as a continent we were able to distinguish ourselves in the manner in which we approached and we addressed COVID. We were the only continent that during this horrific pandemic were able to unite and to act as a continent in an integrated manner. If you ever want to talk about African integration, I saw it with my own eyes during COVID, when right at the outset of the pandemic, we developed a strategy, an African strategy of how to address and to approach COVID. And no other continent that I know of, even to a little extent Europe, was able to develop as good a strategy as we did. And that spoke to our integration. And we lived up to the strength, the resilient strength, and possibly hidden strength that we have as Africans who have survived a whole lot of other terrible things that were done to us as a people. And having developed that strategy, when the world was at sixes and ninths, trying to get personal protective equipment, and when all countries were running all over the world, overpaying for PPEs and what have you, going to suppliers all over the world, China, Europe, and being overcharged. We united once again and established an African medicine supplies platform where we all got together and started buying our PPEs at reduced prices. That too was phenomenal, and we did it because we became integrated and united. Whilst that was going ahead, the era of vaccines came to the fore, and once again we united and put together a vaccine acquisition entity. No other continent put up a vaccine acquisition entity like we did, and we were able to procure and amass vaccines in the most effective manner. And that to me showed us that working together, precisely the point that President Ruto was making, we are able to achieve enormous feats and demonstrate to the world. And in fact, the world was quite surprised at the manner in which Africa was able to unite and address a pandemic like this. So if we work together, we're able to achieve much more than what we imagine. President Ruto speaks about climate change, where now our countries are being ravaged by climate change, droughts, floods, fires, pests, you name it. And it is this that, as President Ruto is saying, that we need to unite and work together and address even climate change. And out of it all, we should be able to see new opportunities, as President Ruto was saying, new industries, new sectors, and make sure that we enter those new sectors and excel in the most outstanding manner. Having just returned from COP27, held on African soil in Egypt, where the stark realities about climate change were demonstrated to all, as Africa and as African leaders, we made it very clear that our countries cannot afford a further rise in global temperatures, but we also collectively called upon the more developed economy countries to honor their commitments. And they have been making commitments over and over and over again. In COP21 in Paris, they made a commitment that they would be investing $100 billion or making available $100 billion per year. They have not met those commitments. Now, collectively, a number of African leaders who were there, all of us, one message, several voices, we said, we want them to address the loss and the damage that our countries are suffering from. And once again, Africa is showing a great deal of integration of thought, effort, and articulation by saying to the world, we want you to address loss and damage. We are hardly responsible as a continent to the damage that has been done and continues to be done to climate, and we therefore want you, yes, to pay up. It is about time that the money is brought to Africa to enable us to address the damage they have caused to our climate. So, being here at this business forum, for me, and as President Ruto was saying, based on what we've been able to do in the past and the positions that we've collectively taken as a continent, it brings forward an important opportunity and message about what the business community should be able to do, working together with your various governments, for us to search forward to address the issue of integration. It is about time that indeed Africa is more integrated. When we look, as President Ruto correctly said, when we look at other continents, especially Europe, their intertrade is up to 70%, and ours is a paltry less than 20%. And when you go into the markets that we have, as you go into our markets and when you pick up goods, I often begin looking where these goods are made. And I get appalled when I realize that goods that we could have made ourselves on the continent are imported from other environments in the world. And this is what we now need to live up to and address the issues that hold us back. What is it that holds us back? And here I speak to us as business and also as government. What holds us back seems to be fear. Fear of the unknown, where we almost fear our own shadows and are worried about surging forward, confronting those shadows. Today, we were able to announce, for instance, that there should be visa-free travel between South Africa and Kenya. By Kenyans going to South Africa, that you no longer need to have a visa. Now, I'm able to say, what has always held us back, I was saying to President Ruto, is a fear. We possibly, as well, South Africans, we were afraid that by opening up the doors of South Africa to Kenyans, we are afraid that in will come all those undesirable elements that just want to transgress our immigration laws and so forth. And today we were able to say, let's ditch the fear. Let's open up South Africa to Kenyans to come to South Africa so that you can come and do what? And trade with us. You can come and do business. You can come and be tourists. Yes, you can come and learn. Many young people want to come to our learning institutions. Many people who want to come, yes, to our hospitals. There are many people who do want to come and visit their friends and relatives. And today, that's precisely what we've done. Got rid of that fear and to enable us to triumph over fear. And of course, we've reached a very good agreement with Kenya that we are going to monitor this process. We are going to be hands-on, and it's not going to be a loophole that we have opened for those who want to transgress